morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, I'm going to be taking a look at a new Yveltal card, though I hope, of course, you all come along with me and turn it into we're going to be taking a look. So Yveltal then, it's had a surprisingly large amount of cards since it came around in X and Y. Many of them have been very good, is this one. Now I should mention our translation comes from the lovely Hochmann over at RappelMann TCG. And if we have a start off having a little bit of a look at the basics here, we can see it's got 130 HP. This is good, it's there with stuff like Buzzwole, but really, there's a whole bunch of Pokemon that hit for 120. Having 130 makes a huge difference. Like that Umbreon that I was playing in Bristol this past weekend that may or may not have been a good idea. Retreat cost of 2 kind of sucks and is awkward. Resistance to fighting is great because of stuff like Buzzwole and because stuff like Pikarom is running around, and Buzzwole's going to be countering it. And all fighting types. But you're weak to lightning. And because of stuff like Pikarom and because of tricks like Electro Power, this is a very bad thing indeed. This, no bueno. Now you are a Darkness Pokemon, and we did actually get a really nice stadium, I believe I looked at just yesterday, which is Night City. And Night City gives free retreat to your basic Darkness Pokemon. Hey look! This is a basic Darkness Pokemon. And of course you've got Black Market Prism Star, so if you've got that out, and a Darkness Energy attached to Yveltal, then your opponent takes 1 fewer prize when they take a KO. Cool. Oh yeah, and in terms of weakness, you're hitting stuff like Mimikyu and Gengar, and Giratina, both of which are seeing a fair amount of play. So, with all the preamble out of the way, what does it actually do? Well, according to the lovely Hochmann, the first attack for 1 Darkness Energy does 20 damage, but if there is a stadium in play, you do 20 more. And this is kind of cool. You see, we're close, but we're annoyingly close. So let's assume there is a stadium in play, and incidentally, it's if there is a stadium in play, not your stadium, not your opponent's, just anyone's got a stadium out. Then all of a sudden you're doing 40 damage. And sometimes 40 damage is going to be great. So if you sit down and your opponent flips over a Ditto Prism Star, for instance, that's kind of fantastic. Or if your opponent flips over something that is weak to darkness, let's say something like a Ghastly, for instance, then again, you'll be getting a fairly nice KO here, because we're hitting 80 if they're weak. That's pretty gosh darn good. But we're losing Devoured Field. Now, there aren't a huge amount of 50 HP Pokemon out there, if I'm honest with you, but you see the odd Oddish or whatever sitting there rocking 50 HP, so that would be quite nice. What you really want here is a way to get it up to 60, because 60 means you're getting all kinds of stuff like Inkay, but also post-rotation when we're really struggling to search for Pokemon, Professor Round's Lecture will get you free Pokemon with 60 HP or less, which incentivizes people to play Pokemon with 60 HP or less, which means that you could be running through them. So how are we doing the extra 20 damage here? And the sad answer is you're probably not. As mean as that sounds, because the way you would pre-rotation would be to use a Professor Kukui, which does an extra 20 damage, draws you 2 cards, yay, etc. But no, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have that right now. That's not an option. So there's no Devoured Field, there's no Professor Kukui, and look, if you were a Lightning Pokemon, you'd have Electro Power. If you were a Darkness Pokemon, you'd have Diancie Prism Star. If we ever get something along those lines for Darkness Pokemon, this can be great in the early game for chipping away and chipping away. If you could add 30 here to pop yourself up to 70, you'd be getting a 1-hit KO on a Giratina, and that would be pretty huge. But there's just a whole bunch of ifs here. If. And that's the problem. It's just not quite good enough. I think there's too many times you're not going to be getting a KO because you're going to be 10 or 20 short. So what about the second attack? Can we do any better with the second attack? Well, 2 darkness, 1 colorless energy, 120 damage. Put 3 damage counters on one of your Pokemon. So remember earlier when I talked about there being a big difference between 120 and 130? Here is more proof of that. Here is a Pokemon that hits 120. And incidentally, we need to go back to the whole Devoured Field has rotated. Because if Devoured Field hadn't rotated, then you'd be hitting up to 130. And there'd be a whole bunch of stuff like Buzzwole, on which you're getting a one-hit KO. Funnily enough, not Grand Ball because of the whole resistance thing. But then there's plenty of stuff out there like Zapdos, which is seeing a lot of play, or you'd be getting a one-hit KO. And then, of course, you got evolving Pokemon and the little boys and little girls like Jirachi, for instance. Okay, you're doing all right here, but look at the energy cost. Darkness, darkness, colourless. That might be too much. I think that might be a little bit too much. Now, this is extremely similar to the Giratina from Lost Thunder, which also does coloured, colourless, except Giratina actually hits 130, not 120, and as I've explained, there's a big difference. There's a lot of 130 HP Pokemon, like Giratina, although that is weak to darkness. The big difference here is that Giratina's got Malamar. When was the last time you saw Giratina played other than with Malamar? Now, to be fair, Giratina's got a really nice ability. When it's in the discard, you can put it onto the bench and do 1 damage to each of 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. 10 damage, 1 damage counter, you know what I mean. And it's really fun. But Yveltal doesn't have that. Incidentally, Giratina would be kind of fun to pop the extra damage down so that Yveltal can get the KOs here. But Giratina's got the Malamar energy acceleration. You don't really have that here. What you do have is Nanu. And I'm not sure if Nanu's quite good enough. So Nanu lets you swap any Pokemon on your field for a basic Darkness Pokemon in your discard pile, and then any damage, any energy, etc, they stay. So what you could do here is bench a Darkrai Prism Star with 2 extra energy. When you bench it, you get to attach 2 extra energy from your hand. And then you play a Nanu to swap it for an Yveltal, attach another energy and go. And this could be a turn 1 attack. It's awkward, but all you really need to do is get Darkrai out with 2 energy on, and you need the 2 energy in your hand. Then you attach from your hand, and then you play a Nanu. It's quite a combo to try and get rolling straight away, but this is a potential turn 1 attack. And if it's a turn 1 attack, then you're hitting 120 before your opponent's been able to evolve, etc. Now we could be rolling with it. We could be doing very nicely indeed here. But the problem is that's kind of convoluted. Now, if you want to go the Nanu route, you could also use Incineroar. Incineroar, you put 3 damage counters on, but you also get to put 3 energy on from your deck, and then you can play something like a Nanu to get this out. And the issue I have here is that it's too gosh darned awkward. And if you're really going to be doing stuff like using Incineroar and then rolling with a Nanu, how about something a little bit more impressive? How about something like Mega Sableye and Tyranitar that I showed you just the other day? I'll pop a link to that video in the description, because that is a game-winning card. That is an, oh my god, look how great it is kind of card. And I don't think Yveltal is. Now, as for putting the 3 damage counters on, it's not really hurt Giratina, it won't hurt this. But then again, there's always those Pokemon that take advantage of having damage on. So the new Stunfisk that came out in Unbroken Bonds does extra damage for each of your bench Pokemon with any damage counters on. The new Spiritomb does 30 more damage for each damage counter on it. Now, it's got 60 HP and an ability that puts a damage counter on it. So use the ability, attack with Yveltal, and then next turn use the ability, and Spiritomb hits 160 for a single energy. In that context, it could actually be really kind of fun. And then, of course, you've got Tauros from Team Up that does extra damage for each damage counter on each of your Tauros and Tauros GX. 10 base plus 10 more. So there's always ways around it. The damage isn't a huge deal here. I just worry that the first attack doesn't quite do enough, and the second attack is just a little bit expensive. And maybe one day soon we get a bit more energy acceleration. Don't forget, it wasn't too long since we had Dark Patch. That would be nice here. And maybe soon we get a way to do an extra 20 damage. And if we could do an extra 20 damage, I would adore this first attack. If you can give me 60 damage on a basic for a single basic energy, and I can sit there knocking out evolution Pokemon or evolving Pokemon, that would be amazing. So I see Yveltal as a watch this space Pokemon, giving it a tentative and potentially slightly generous free Wassies, while admitting that maybe, just maybe, with 1 or 2 extra cards, this could be really good. And I don't think every Pokemon is 1 or 2 cards away from being really good, but I think this Yveltal might be. But I'd like to know what you think, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where we talk about games that don't even have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.